Rahul Gandhi has added fuel to the fire already raging over the big Hindutva debate. After Salman Khurshid equated Hindutva with the ISIS and Boko Haram, Congress continues to fire shots at the Hindutva ideology. Rahul Gandhi plunged into the fight headlong, claiming Hindutva is about beating up minorities. A furious BJP has hit out at the Congress MP, calling Rahul Gandhi an Ichchadhari Hindu.
Is Hinduism about beating a Sikh or a Muslim? Hindutva, of course, is.
The BJP Congress face-off over Hindutva just got bigger. This time, it is Rahul Gandhi himself who has added fuel to the fire. The Congress MP has plunged right into the fight, firing shots at Hindutva.
Where is it written that you should kill an innocent man? I am unable to find this. In Hindu scripture, in Islamic scripture, in Sikh scripture. I can see it in Hindutva.
Speaking to Congress workers virtually while on a foreign trip, Rahul Gandhi picked differences between Hinduism and Hindutva.
Is Hinduism about beating a Sikh or a Muslim? Hindutva, of course, is.
The war over Hindutva has exploded and the flames are getting too hot to handle. In a blistering attack, the BJP has accused Rahul of inciting Congress workers against Hindus.
This pathological hatred for Hinduism amongst the Congress leader gets its traction, gets its energy from Mr. Rahul Gandhi and from the Gandhi family.
Union Minister Giriraj Singh said Rahul lacked knowledge of Bharatvarsh and Sanatan Dharma.
जिसके लिए सब कुछ केवल वोट ही हो, देश सेकेंडरी हो, से क्या कहना? संघ को लोगों को समझने के लिए भारत के सनातन इतिहास को समझना होगा, तब आरएसएस को समझ पाएंगे.
The BJP has called it an attempt by the Congress to appease Muslims ahead of upcoming state polls.
Rahul Gandhi, by coming out in the open and equating Hindutva to a violent ideology, when the Supreme Court of this India has opined that Hindutva is a way of life, very clearly indicates that the Gandhis are anti-Hindu.
Rahul's comments came right after two of his party colleagues, Salman Khurshid and Rashid Alvi, made similar charges. In his new book, Sunrise Over Ayodhya, Khurshid wrote that Ayodhya saga is about one faith trumping the other. The Congress leader claimed that Hinduism has been pushed aside by a robust version of Hindutva that is similar to jihadist groups like ISIS and Boko Haram. Rashid Alvi, on the other hand, made the debate scorching hot by calling those who chant Jai Shri Ram demons.
आज भी बहुत लोग जय श्री राम का नारा लगाते हैं, वो सब मुनि नहीं, वो निश्चल हैं, होशियार रहने की जरूरत है.
If political pundits are to be believed, this war is going to get intensified as we head into the crucial assembly elections next year. With video journalist Ankit Singh, this is Supriya Bhardwaj for India Today in Delhi.
The Congress top leader is clearly declaring war on the Hindutva ideology. Is that a smart thing to do? You've got big elections in key states like Uttar Pradesh around the corner, trying to separate Hindutva from Hinduism. Also talking about a different ideology which the Congress believes in, an ideology about love, not hate. An ideology which is affectionate and nationalistic, according to Rahul Gandhi. But is he able to bring out what this ideology means clearly and explain it to the masses who vote? Or is this just political suicide of the kind that only Rahul Gandhi is capable of? Because a lot of people, especially the majority Hindu voters, don't necessarily think of Hindutva as being the same thing as the Boko Haram or the ISIS. So therefore, is he just playing with political fire which will singe him? On this broadcast, Professor Gaurav Vallabh, Nupur Sharma with us, and Gaurav Vallabh was with us on the Newstrack yesterday, and we looked at what Salman Khurshid had said at that time, and now you've got your Supreme Leader Rahul Gandhi saying the same thing, if not more. Now what's very clear is the Congress party at the highest levels is declaring war on Hindutva. Now that's a dangerous thing to do, because if you ask most people who are watching this broadcast, they won't think of Hindutva as being the same thing as the ISIS or Boko Haram. So you don't like the ideology. That's one thing. To declare war on Hindutva could cost you very dearly in the elections that are around the corner. Gaurav Wallabh, welcome.
Rahul, what is Hinduism? Hinduism is something which is practiced by Mahatma Gandhi, because most of us, and I think all of us, believe that in last 200 years, one of the most, I can say, deserving practicing Hindu is Mahatma Gandhi. And what is Hindutva? Hindutva is something which is practiced by Nathuram Godse. This is the only difference. I can give you the people who are practicing Hindu. The Godse was also going to temple, but he was against the Mahatma Gandhi's idea of Hinduism, because he was practicing Hinduism. Godse was practicing Hindutva. Hinduism is the great union of various Indian cultures and traditions with diverse roots. But what is Hindutva? Hindutva was first proposed by Savarkar in 1923. And I challenge Madam, who is there on the show, that we have many central texts of Hinduism: Ved, Upanishad, Puran, Mimamsa, you can say Vedanta, Yoga. Can you show at any one place there is a term called as Hindutva? The first time it was used as a central text in a political pamphlet in 1928, Hindutva, who is Hindu, and who had written that? Again, the RSS people. Hinduism is pluralistic. Hinduism is inclusive.
Okay.
Hinduism
so
is
let's get Nupur Sharma to make an opening salvo, and then I come back to you, Gaurav Wallabh, because the primary argument put out by Congress and by Rahul Gandhi is that Hindutva is not the same thing as Hinduism, because if it were, the BJP would say that they believe in Hinduism rather than saying that they believe in Hindutva. So obviously the BJP knows and acknowledges that there is a difference between Hindutva and Hinduism, which is why they talk about Hindutva and nothing else. Nupur Sharma, welcome.
Well, good evening, Rahul. You know, it is actually quite shocking that even now people say अच्छे दिन नहीं आए. सारे के सारे कांग्रेसी आज हिंदुओं के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. Quite contrary to, if I'm not wrong, correct me, what their senior leader had reported once they started losing elections at the center, that they have managed, Congress party has managed to alienate Hindus, and that's precisely because of the pathological hatred they have for Hindus. Today, Professor Vallabh today is sitting here and challenging me. Today, Professor Vallabh from the Congress party is sitting here and issuing certificates कि हिंदुइज्म कौन फॉलो करता था और हिंदुत्व कौन फॉलो करता था. इतने पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं that they have decided to even supersede and perhaps have a far-reaching idea about even what the Honorable Supreme Court said in 1995 in the Ramesh Yeshwant Prabhu case. Mind you, that has still not been stayed and that has still not been superseded by the apex court itself. Wherein in 1995, the Honorable Supreme Court, this is something that Mr. Salman Khurshid, completely defies logic to me, for a senior advocate to touch upon this case in the very book, in the text that he has actually compared Hindutva to Boko Haram and ISIS. Therein in that Justice J.S. Verma bench, Hindutva was described as nothing but a way of life of people inhabiting the subcontinent. And that was a cultural definition of all people. It was not actually about religion. It was a cultural definition of all people inhabiting the subcontinent. So now, simply put, today Professor Vallabh and laughingly Mr. Rahul Gandhi and surprisingly a senior counsel standing in the Honorable Supreme Court have their own versions. But perhaps what is most hurtful is that their hatred knows no bounds. I would like to actually read out with how Mr. Salman Khurshid started. He says, Ayodhya saga is about one faith trumping methods of another. Are you also trying to tell me this saga which culminated in a title suit before the apex court was basically a non-secular, rather communal way employed by the Honorable Apex Court of India? So today, the Congress party leaders have relegated themselves to calling the Honorable Supreme Court communal.
So Gaurav Wallabh, the problem from the Congress's perspective is that this whole utopian idea that Rahul Gandhi talks about, this idea about love, about nationalism, about affection, your ideology being alive, vibrant, but that's been overshadowed, hasn't been articulated in terms that citizens and voters understand, which is why the dominant idea of the time is the idea of Hindutva, which is being pushed by the BJP, because if Rahul Gandhi has this idea, he's not been able to percolate it down to the voters who vote for his party. And that's a big failure.
Rahul, that is why we are debating, we are discussing. I asked a very simple question to Nupurji. Nupurji, I may again like to repeat. Please try to answer, Nupurji. कौन से वेद, कौन से पुराण, कौन से धर्म ग्रंथ, कौन से उपनिषद, कौन सी मीमांसा, कौन से वेदांता में हिंदुत्व शब्द का प्रयोग किया गया है? Please let us know. I can give you where is the Hinduism is used, but there is nowhere Hindutva used. Hindutva is used by Savarkar. Hindutva is divisive, and I will give you the reason for that. Hinduism is unique in its inclusiveness. Hinduism talks about Sarva Dharma Sambhav. Hinduism talks about Vasudev Kutumbakam. In contrast to this, Hindutva is exclusive. It is a practitioner, a Hindutva actively hate and fear other religion, but a practitioner Hinduism is not going to fear for other religion. Hinduism is synonymous with secularism, because it is based on the Rig Veda, which says Ano Bhadra Kartavo Yantu Vishwato. Jahan se bhi achhi cheez mile le lo. That is what Hinduism is. But what is Hindutva? Practitioner Hindutva is always going to oppose a secular Hindu way of life.
No, but Nupur Sharma, historical facts would suggest that the whole conception of Hindutva is a product of an RSS worldview. If you go back in history or go back even in terms of books, it's only when the RSS was born that after that people started explaining and talking about the Hindutva way of things. Before that, Hinduism, Hindus were always spoken of, and therefore Rahul Gandhi, when he says that Hindutva is not Hinduism, Hindutva is what the RSS stands for.
May I answer, please, Rahul? For that matter, Hinduism as a word is also something which will not find place in Rig Vedas. It's an English word. Now, I would actually ask a question of Professor Vallabh, because he did not understand. He very successfully deflected, choosing not to answer as to what Salman Khurshid meant by saying that this Ayodhya saga was trumping one religion over another, basically calling the Honorable Supreme Court communal. But he chose not to answer. Please tell me, which Veda or Puran says you are a practicing Hindu when you say, or when you wear a jane over your bandgala? Please tell me in which text of our religion is it also written that Shivji pura sansar nigal gaye the? या आपके राहुल गांधी ने कहा है, it's gone viral. मुझे भी बताइएगा, बहुत अनपढ़ हूं मैं हिंदुओं के बारे में, अपने खुद के धर्म के बारे में, कि आपसे सीखना पड़ रहा है कि शशि थरूर बता रहे हैं कि अच्छा हिंदू वो होता है जो कभी नहीं चाहेगा कि मस्जिद, जहां जो बाय द वे इन्वेजन था, इट वाज एन एक्ट ऑफ वायलेंस अगेंस्ट हिंदूज, हु आर हिंदूज, इसी चीज को डिफाइन कर दीजिएगा. मेरा ओपन challenge है आपको. Who are Hindus? Historically, what defined Hindus? It's an open challenge to you to today tell me if even the Honorable Supreme Court was wrong when it actually...
Gaurav Vallabh, the biggest risk here, outside of the shrill political debate, the biggest risk is that the BJP will be able to position the Congress once again as being anti-Hindu by equating your attack on Hindutva as an attack on Hinduism, and that at a time when Rahul Gandhi is wearing a Janeyu, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra is going to various temples, would boomerang for you in the forthcoming round of assembly elections, because the BJP is really upping the ante on this one.
Rahul, I clearly defined what is Hinduism. Sindhu Nadi se leke Arabian Sea tak jo rehte hain, wo sab Hindu hai. That is what Hinduism is defined. That how in our ancient text it is defined, it is mentioned. I asked Madam ki Hindutva kahan hai? Madam, you got annoyed. Now, Madam, you had raised many points. Madam, you are practicing Hindu, I am also practicing Hindu, and we respect each other. But Madam, had you seen कि चश्माधारी आदमी शिव भक्त देखा आपने मैडम? बाबा केदार के सामने एक चश्माधारी, वो भी काला चश्मा, नुपुर जी, काला चश्मा पहन के कौन सी भक्ति होती है? Which bhakti is there with kala goggles, black goggles? काले चश्मे के तो गाने बने हुए हैं हमारे देश में. वहाँ पे a practicing Hindu is sitting in front of Baba Kedar with black goggles, with leather shoes. चमड़े के जूते पहन के कौन सी भक्ति होती है नुपुर जी? आप जब भक्ति कर रहे हो भगवान केदार की, तो वो क्या लाइव टेलीकास्ट होता है नुपुर जी? When we are sitting in Shri Charan of Bhagwan and we are trying to establish the contact with Bhagwan Shri Shankar, then you are like going to make a live telecast. What is this kind of bhakti? And Nupur ji, Gulab Chand Kataria, when he says, and Gulab Chand Kataria, by the way, Nupur ji is one of the tallest leader of BJP in Rajasthan. वो he says कि अगर बीजेपी नहीं होती तो भगवान श्री राम समुद्र में पड़े होते. Do you agree with that?
Okay. So Nupur Sharma, you called Rahul Gandhi an Ichchadhari Hindu. Gaurav Vallabh hitting back by calling Prime Minister Modi a Chashmadhari Hindu.
10 seconds. Allow me 10 seconds. I'm sorry. Which text says that you cannot wear glasses to do puja?
अच्छा.
But I will tell you, the text do say, I'm sorry, पढ़ाइएगा एक second मेरी बात. अच्छा, somebody has weak eyes, cannot wear glasses. Is that what you're saying? बढ़ाइएगा. मुझे मेरी knowledge बढ़ाइएगा. But I will tell you, when you talk about contact with Shiv ji, जनेऊ का सबसे पहला कांटेक्ट नंगे बदन पे होता है. उसका जवाब भी देंगे. A bit rich today, Rahul, for somebody in the Congress who under their rule before the Honorable Supreme Court said Bhagwan Ram है ही नहीं in the Ram Setu matter, said Ram Bhagwan काल्पनिक है. A bit rich for those people who history इतिहास गवाह है. जवाहरलाल नेहरू चाहते ही नहीं थे कि सोमनाथ मंदिर रिकंस्ट्रक्ट हो. वो चाहते ही नहीं थे उस टाइम के राष्ट्रपति डॉक्टर प्रसाद उसकी सेरेमनी में जाए, जिन्होंने वहां पे आइडल्स राम भगवान के, राम लल्ला के विराजमान जन्म स्थान से आइडल तक रिमूव करा दिए थे. जो लोग भगवान राम को काल्पनिक बताते हैं, जिनकी पार्टी कहती है जो जय श्री राम का नारा लगाता है वो संत साधु नहीं है, जिनके राहुल गांधी कहते हैं जो मंदिर जाते हैं वो लड़कियां छेड़ते हैं, जो बंद दरवाजे के पीछे कहते हैं कि हाँ हम मुसलमानों की पार्टी है. A bit rich for you today to say, after saying that LET Hindus are more dangerous than banned terrorist organization LET, for you to sit here and tell me that those people with weak eyesight cannot
in the midst of all of this, and the fires that had already been lit by Salman Khurshid and then by Rahul Gandhi, Rashid Alvi too waded into the Hindutva debate by declaring that some of those who chanted Jai Shri Ram slogans were demons. He came under fire. He quickly clarified to say that his comments had been misinterpreted.
Those who chant Jai Shri Ram are demons.
आज भी बहुत लोग जय श्री राम का नारा लगाते हैं. वो सब मुनि नहीं, वो निश्चल हैं.
The words of Congress Neta Rashid Alvi sparking a massive row. This was in a speech he gave at Kalki.
राम राज्य कैसा होगा? राम राज्य में नफरत की कोई जगह नहीं होगी. आज भी बहुत लोग जय श्री राम का नारा लगाते हैं. वो सब मुनि नहीं, वो निश्चल हैं. होशियार रहने की जरूरत है.
After facing a major backlash, the Congress MP was quick to issue a lame clarification.
काल की धाम में मेरा भाषण है और मैंने हरगिज ये नहीं कहा कि जय श्री राम बोलने वाला हर आदमी राक्षस होता है. मैंने कहा है कि जय श्री राम बोलने वाला हर आदमी मुनि नहीं होता है. भारतीय जनता पार्टी की तो आदत है कि वो एक एक लफ्ज निकाल के उसको एक्सप्लॉइट करते.
The damage, however, was already done. The BJP was quick to pounce on Rashid Alvi for his controversial remark. The Saffron Party claiming the Congress is spewing venom on Ram Bhakts. BJP leaders also pointed to Salman Khurshid's claims in his latest book that Hindutva was similar to jihadi versions of ISIS and Boko Haram.
राशिद अलवी जो है वो बार-बार कह रहे हैं, उनका बयान जो है हो और चाहे वह खुर्शीद सलमान खुर्शीद हो या सब बौखलाए हुए हैं और कांग्रेस जो नकली हिंदू का आचरण कर रही है वो बताए कि इन दोनों के खिलाफ कार्रवाई क्यों नहीं किया है. इसका जवाब उन्हें देना पड़ेगा.
जब तक राशिद अलवी और सलमान खुर्शीद जेल के सलाखों के पीछे नहीं जाते, ये हमारी लड़ाई चलती रहेगी।
Alvi's contentious remarks come even as Rahul Gandhi sought to differentiate Hindutva from Hinduism in a speech to party workers. He claimed that Hindutva teaches the beating up of Muslims. The Congress is now left firefighting controversial statements on Hindutva made by at least 3 of its leaders and counting.
The Bharatiya Janata Party has come out all guns blazing against the Congress party for its anti-Hindutva stand. While the fight over Hindutva and the anti-Hindutva stance is nothing new, it's probably the timing which has caused this huge controversy. Ahead of the all-crucial UP elections, the grand old party may have just set the agenda for the BJP.
Bureau Report, India Today.
The BJP will go all out to put the Congress on the defensive on Hinduism and Hindutva, saying they're the same thing. The Congress will try and push forth its point of view, saying Hindutva is not the same thing as Hinduism. How convincingly are they able to do so will determine how the political narrative shapes up over the next few weeks. We will track this carefully. For the time being, Gaurav Vallabh and Nupur Sharma for joining me on the Newstrack. Thank you very much.